Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Matt Willson SFL Kickoff Show. I'm Mike Daggs. He's Gerald Smith. Behind the scenes, our production crew, Cameron Irvine and Ron Haynes. We welcome you to this Sunday afternoon edition of the Matt Willson SFL Kickoff Show, here to kick off Week 11 in Season 24. Gerald, how you doing?
Good, but shame on Cameron Irvine for making me wait 2 more days to run my mouth. I don't know. What's wrong with that, man?
I know. Friday came and went. Saturday came and went. Finally, Sunday afternoon.
I almost cried. I literally cried myself to sleep Friday night. Cameron let me down. I still love him.
Well, whatever. Here we are. So may as well go ahead and get things started. We had an exciting Week 10. There was a whole bunch of games, big, just packed slate of games to go over. And if you happened to tune in last Tuesday to this week in the SFL, that show was back on the air, and you got your first look at the playoff picture, and we're actually going to see that look at the playoff picture again here in just a little bit. But first, let's just talk about some of the games last week. Started off with a great one between Albuquerque and Florida. It was a game that really Florida needed to win to try to stay, up top in the East, and Albuquerque just still doing Albuquerque things, man. They got the win 17-10.
Yeah, and they did it on the road too. They're typically not as good on the road as they are at home, but they did it on the road against a fairly good Florida team. But I think we both can say this isn't the Florida team that we've used to seeing in the past. But look, Albuquerque went there and took care of business.
They sure did. Carolina, also in the East, kind of right there in the same sort of boat as Florida. They wanted to get that win and, try to get an extra game up on Florida, and they did. They ended up beating the Chicago Warriors. They were at home 20-13. There were some close ones as well. Lexington and DC. That was a fantastic back and forth game. Lexington narrowly squeaking out the win. They advanced to 5-4. DC falling to 4-4. Denver and Minnesota. Minnesota at home, they just don't lose that often. They did last week, 24-22.
It was a surprising upset right there, right? You and I both picked Minnesota right there because we said, hey, them at home, they were on the road for such a long time, and all of a sudden Denver comes in there and just throws a wrench in everything.
Yep, and then Queen City hosting Pittsburgh. That was the one game that we picked different from each other last week. And Buffalo, Queen City Corsairs, they got the win, 45-42.
It was a crazy shootout. They're throwing the ball, dude. Crazy high stats.
Yep,
in that one. But it was an exciting game just for all the fireworks that had gone on.
Absolutely. So let's get a look at that playoff picture now after last week is in the books. Number one is, of course, the 7-1 Washington Trident. Albuquerque Adams right there at number 2 at 7-2. Baltimore, they're back in that top 4 picture after being outside it in the playoffs last season at 6-2 for now. And, of course, we've got Vancouver at 6-2 for now. That's your top 4. I mean, a lot of moving parts still, Gerald. There's a lot of things that are going to happen throughout the remaining games this season. I mean, you can see some teams have already played 9 games, like Albuquerque. They've played 9. You got Queen City in there at number 11. They've played 10 games. Meanwhile, Mexico City at number 5, they're only 7 games in. So there's still a lot of things that are going to move. But this is your initial look at the playoff picture. What do you think of what you see here?
I think the South, right, as usual, right, is probably the slobber knocker, as I call it, type of division.
Yeah, they're all up there.
Yeah, all of them are up there all the way to 15. So, look, and all these teams can still jockey for positioning right here. Yep. So you got Fort Worth who can come in and actually do something, and actually get themselves in. And you can see Houston sitting at number 7, Bossier City at number 9.
Yeah.
Albuquerque number 2, and the former champs, right, from last season, Mexico City sitting at number 5. So all this is going to get all shuffled up.
Yeah, it definitely is. And the top 12 will ultimately get in the playoffs. Those 3 teams down at the bottom are currently on the outside looking in, for those that don't know. So that's where we're at right now. And going forward, the rest of the season, we'll get an updated look at the playoff picture, and it'll be the most current and up-to-date look at the playoff picture after the Monday Night Spectacular games. You'll see it right here first on the Matt Willson SFL Kickoff Show each and every week. So looking forward to
and something that's interesting here too. I'm looking at, like, there's 3 teams that is very, very surprising here. Washington Trident as number 1.
Yeah,
the former
they've never
Motor
been
City
7-1.
VH, right? Never
once.
And then you have Denver, who hasn't had a winning season in an extremely long
16,
time.
Yeah.
And Queen City, winless last season.
Let's go Buffalo.
And guess what? Here they are sitting at 11 at the season ended today. They are right back in it. So if you think about it, right? This is look, and Bossier City's another team that was on, like on the outside looking in as well. Last season didn't finish very well toward the end. But look, I like the fact that we have these three teams specifically, right, in the Trident, the Nightwings, and the Corsairs.
Yeah.
In the playoff pictures, it shows that, hey, look, leadership change does matter.
And on the flip side of it, not leadership change related, but just difference in how teams are doing this season. Florida, not on there. Arizona, not on there. I mean, these are teams that were up in the top 5 last season. They're not even on the chart.
Yeah, and it's unreal. And Vancouver, themselves last season, I believe, was an off season for them.
Yeah.
They seem to have resurged and got themselves back in it,
Yep.
right? So it's
a game outside of number 1 in the West.
I love the way this looks right now. It's so different than what we're used to. It's not the same old. Everything's going,
exactly.
And like, look, there's a lot of football left to be played.
There is a lot of football left to be played. It is going to happen, though. You said this looks a lot different when we have the show on Friday. It's going to look a lot different again.
Well,
so it'll look a lot different every week.
I don't know. You said wait to week 12. Let's see.
I did say
going on in week.
I did say wait till
week 12 next week. Yes,
right around the corner.
Yes, I'm ready for it.
Well, we're in week 11 right now, so let's talk about week 11. Let's go through the schedule and see the 8 games that we've got on slate for today. We've got 6 of them that are going to be played out today on Sunday, and then another 2 games on Monday, along with this week in the SFL. First up at 1 o'clock this afternoon is going to be Nashville at Baltimore with Ethan Muslin and Mickey Malillo. I tried to go for the biggest height difference in a broadcast crew that I could find. That was it.
And the matchup does it too. You have someone who's doing really
it's
good.
a David and Goliath story. So it needed a David and Goliath broadcaster.
That's crazy.
Man, there's a thought process that goes into the schedule.
It's a method to the madness.
Yeah, absolutely. It might just be madness. Indianapolis at Vancouver is the other one in that 1 o'clock time block with Colin and Rick Northrup. And then you get a little bit of your afternoon off. Be back at 6:30 though. Washington at Fort Worth. That's going to be a great game. In fact, it's one of the 2 games that we dubbed our game of the week this week. Mark Lopez and Eddie Gage on the call. And our other game of the week, Atlanta at Denver with Ramos Lynn and Wade Phillips. That'll be your 6:30 block. And then at 9 p.m., we've got Arizona at Oklahoma City. It's another kind of David and Goliath story. Arizona looking to get back on track, at least get back to 500. Oklahoma City still looking for their first win. Cameron Duty, Rochelle Colston on the call. At 9:15, we've got Bossier City at Minnesota with Tyler Falk and DJ Kilgannon. That is your Sunday block. And then on Monday, we've got 2 games in their own solo time spots. First, we've got this week in the SFL at 7:15 p.m. Eastern. And then at 8:15, we've got the Monday Night Spectacular. The DC Dragons at the Houston Headhunters. Cameron Irvine, Charles Doherty back on the air. Finally, I did not like the few-week hiatus that we had from that.
Yeah, we got to have them every week, even though they're depriving
us. It's a staple in the league.
I mean, we're every week.
That's true.
Every week. Step it up, Cameron.
And then we've got Mexico City at Lexington in their own individual time block, 10:30 p.m. Some late-night football. Listen, it's the SFL After Dark. Eric Vincent and Brett Solberg on the call. I mean, who better?
Look, I'll be up. I'll probably fall asleep to it unless it's not a good game, right?
Yeah.
But look, it's just I want some.
My heart's gonna be pounding on my chest the whole time. I'll be awake.
I want a little bit of madness happening in that game.
I don't. I want it to be a nice, smooth game. Aztecs get out in front early, stay out in front the whole game. My heart can only take so much. This league, Cam says, I want it to hurt. Oh. It's hurting my blood pressure.
It hurt me for a long time, and now I'm not in. I'm tired of hurting. Now I'm good.
All right, let's get into our first game breakdown of the week. It's our game of the week, Washington at Fort Worth. This is an important game for both of these teams, Gerald. It's for somewhat opposite reasons, though. You've got 7-1 Washington. They currently lead the West, but not by a lot. Vancouver is right behind them at 6-2, and they have the tiebreaker over Washington because Washington's one loss was to Vancouver back in Week 7. If both Washington and Vancouver win out, Washington will stay in that top spot. However, if Washington loses even a single game and Vancouver doesn't, Vancouver takes that top spot away from them. For Fort Worth, their playoff future is in peril right now. They need to win out to even have a shot, in my opinion. They're currently at 4-4, and they are last in the South. They're last in the South. But get this. There's still a road where they could win the South. That's how screwed up the South is. They are last at 4-4. They could still win the division, but effectively they would need to win out to do so. And at most, they really only can afford one loss before the playoffs are just out of the picture for them. The schedule doesn't get much easier for them the rest of the way after Washington, which, you just saw the playoff picture. The number 1 seed Washington, who's only lost a single game to Florida, who scored the most points so far in the league and has allowed the least amount of points in the league. Yeah. After Washington, they've got Florida, who's listen, I know they're having a down season. They're still Florida.
Right.
Then they're at Pittsburgh. I know Pittsburgh's not necessarily the strongest team, but they're at Pittsburgh, and Pittsburgh does know how to win games. And then they've got Albuquerque. You just saw what Albuquerque did on the road to Florida. Listen, and then to get things started right now, they've got the top team in the league tonight hosting Washington. What do they got to do to try to get this win? First off, let's start talking about what Washington's been doing this season.
Look, and the Trident have been cruising along with not much worry, right? And they're, like you said, they're currently number 1 seeded team, in the playoff picture right now and in the SFL. Their offense ranks top 10 in every category and have the number 4 passing attack led by Tommy Utah. Let's go Revs.
Yeah.
Look, and it took this change for him, right? He's having like a career season right now almost,
He's
right?
doing great.
He's doing really, really good, and it helped with the new leadership that he was under. We couldn't get all the production out of him that we needed.
Humidity.
Yes.
Do you think it's got something to do with it being less humid?
Nah, man, we built him right. He's up there. It was just a training ground
Just
for
saying,
him.
He's up in Washington State now.
Man, but
all right, carry
we
on.
trained him, and he goes there and does his own thing, and he's doing good things.
Great
Look,
things.
the run game has been pretty darn good as well, with the 2-headed rushing attack as running back Shane Kaufman and Christopher Dean. I liked Christopher Dean when he was a fullback and doing good things. Now he changed to halfback, still doing good things, right? Look, and they lead the number 10 rushing offense, and they average 4 yards a carry collectively between the two of them. They average 4 yards a carry. So
that's great.
Look, and this unit shows no panic at all, right? They had the one hiccup this season against Vancouver, where they outcoached themselves. I think everybody's seen it and knew it. Other than that, they have been really good on offense.
They have. I mean, their offense, what a turnaround from the Motor City days. I mean, obviously new leadership, some new players, but there's a lot of carryover. And this offense is just getting it done, and they're getting it done really well. On defense, you look at some teams statistically, and you can just look at the numbers, and you're like, that is a good team. Washington's defense, not necessarily something that when you look at it on paper, given their statistics, it jumps out at you as being one of the top squads, but they get it done.
Yeah, and they just and they take the ball away at an extremely high rate, which gives their offense the ball back in pretty good position.
As an offensive coordinator.
Right?
Love that.
And they have 19 takeaways in 8 games. That's the 3rd best in the league to this point. They also are number 3 in sacks. Look, they give up a lot of yards, but they sack the quarterback really well, and they actually pick the ball off pretty well, right, and force all those turnovers. And they're like I said, the number 3 in sacks in the league. There are 16 of their 19 sacks come from the front 4.
Yeah.
So they're really dominant up front, right? So, look, and this defense, in my opinion, is probably one of the most underrated and sneaky good defenses in the league.
Yeah.
And I think I can make a case, even though, statistically, if you look at it on paper, outside of the takeaways and the sacks, that they could arguably be one of the best defenses in the league right now.
They absolutely could. And this came up a lot about the Aztecs last season, too. Our pass defense was giving up a ton of yards. Washington's defense is giving up a ton of yards. Why is that? Well, they're constantly winning.
Yeah.
So when a team is constantly winning, yes, they're going to give up a lot of passing yards because teams are trying to play from behind and they're just slinging the ball all over the place. But that's also how you get a lot of those takeaways that they have. So they're getting it done both on offense and defense. It's got them to 7-1 right now. Fort Worth 4-4. Like I said, bottom of the South. There is a road to the top of the South. It really kind of starts with this game, though. Do they have what it takes to beat a team like Washington? We've seen them put up a ton of points, and we've seen them just get beat down.
Yeah, and they've been a bit bipolar as of late. It's like, what is going on there? It's like, they're just like, yeah, we're gonna bring it, but I think I have the answer. Look, they have had one of the toughest schedules, having played this, 7 games this season versus teams that are currently 500 or better.
Yep.
Right? So, look, but they have also played to the level of their competition sometimes as well. right? That's for the good, right? And that's like them beating you guys, right? The defending champs, and then they turn around and then they play down to a team who I think it has less talent and not as well coached in a team like Bossier City,
right?
And losing, right? So, and that's what I'm talking about. Like, I don't think Bossier City is doing anything bad, right? But I think Fort Worth has more talent and they're coached better in Fort Worth.
Should have won that game,
but they turn around and lose. Yep. So look, offensively, they just haven't been great, ranking 17th in total offense, but are 7th in points per game at 24.3 points a game. But the offense, statistically, if you look at it, has been given credit for the 5 defensive touchdowns that Fort Worth has.
Right.
You take that away, it drops down on average to 19 points a game, which is what? The exact same amount that the defense is allowing.
Yeah.
And when you're that close, it tells a story all on its own.
You're either getting turnovers or you're losing.
Right. Yeah. You're scoring just as much as you're giving up. So hey, look, and they've been obviously 50-50 right down the middle with the way they played so far.
True.
But like I said, they are playing to the level of their opponents, and they beat the defending champs.
They did.
Just a few weeks ago.
By 2 scores.
And now look what they're doing now.
First team to do it in 2 seasons.
And they are playing a team that's number 1 right now.
They are.
Like you guys were coming in.
Yep.
And look, they have the talent and the coaching, but can they do it?
And I think they can because, I mean, any given day, it seems like they have what it takes to win a game. But Washington, earlier on this season, there was a couple times I actually picked against Washington saying, I don't think they're as good as the record shows because statistically, they don't look like it on paper. But we talked about the statistics and why the statistics aren't always telling the full story. Sometimes you got to give it what you always like to refer to, just the good old eye test.
Eye test.
And sometimes the eye test
never fails.
Well, okay. I mean, we'll get to the
lot.
picks later on, but okay, it never fails. Sure. Anyway, hey, let's get into our offensive and defensive player spotlights, shall we? So, all right, offensive player spotlight. Every week this season, I have intentionally tried to make sure we highlighted somebody new because, I want to try to highlight as many players as we can all season long. We when we talked about introducing this segment to the show, the idea was to try to not just talk about teams, but the individuals, the individual players. We want to try to spotlight some people, and we've only got so many shows. I think we're doing 19 shows in the season. Wow, we're doing 19 shows. That's a lot of shows. But anyway, there's only so many opportunities to highlight people. We want to make sure we highlight somebody different every time. Couldn't do it this time. I couldn't do it, and I don't care if you agree or not. I couldn't do it. I had to highlight Michael Brown from Queen City, who I just highlighted last week. Why did I do it? Let's look at these stats. All right, Michael Brown last week, 16 to 28 passing. It's only 57% completion percentage. It's not great, right? His rating was 141.4, 391 yards. He had 5 touchdowns, a 65-yarder and a 64-yarder. Just absolutely incredible play. You see the plays happening now. He had a 64-yard touchdown pass. He had a 23-yard pass for a first down, a 30-yard pass for a first down. If you look at all 3 of those plays, it just shows the incredible poise that he had in the pocket and a very smooth and accurate delivery. He just did not look bothered at all by the pressure that was coming. On his second touchdown and his third touchdown, it was just pinpoint accuracy. I mean, it was in coverage, sometimes double coverage, and he's just finding a way to just throw that ball right in there, right where it needed to go, where only his receiver could get it, and got touchdowns off of it. The 65-yard touchdown that he had, finding the deep target and just an absolute perfect delivery. And then on his final touchdown of the day, a 44-yarder, just another deep target, perfect delivery right on the sideline, very close to going out of bounds, but stayed in and was able to get it into the end zone. Michael Brown is just playing absolutely lights-out football. Listen, I highlighted him last week. Why did I do it? He had a 153.2. It was a perfect quarterback rating. Whatever that magical weird number is. He had a perfect rating. I said, if you have a perfect game, you're getting highlighted. His rating was a 141.4. It's not perfect, but 391 yards and 5 touchdowns and that rating, and you got your team another win, you're getting highlighted. Back on February 16th, Queen City hosted Charleston. They lost that game 34-21. Why? Big part of it was Michael Brown threw 4 interceptions that game. The defense did get one fumble recovery, but that was their only takeaway. So a -3 turnover differential. It's very hard to overcome and win that game. Since that time, you ask? I don't think he did, but I'm going to tell you anyway. Brown has had a game with 3 touchdowns and no picks. Then he had another game with 3 touchdowns and no picks. And that was the game that awarded him that perfect passer rating that we highlighted last week. Now he's got 5 touchdowns and no picks. If you're counting, I know you ran out of fingers. That's 11 touchdowns. Sorry, I'm being mean to you, but you were telling me you didn't like my pick, so I'm going to have to be mean to you. Michael Brown, 11 touchdowns, no picks in 3 games. Queen City's won them all. Michael Brown's your offensive player spotlight of the week again.
Well, look, I will say, like, I was poo-pooing on it. I told you you're unoriginal and everything else.
Yep.
But after you break it down like that,
see,
you've really kind of convinced me that, hey, look, maybe that this was the right pick, right? I'm not saying you got it wrong, right? You may have got it right. I had to give the nod to myself. Look, I'm not saying you're wrong. He deserves it.
Yeah.
He got it. But I did like the way Ziggy Ronick kind of played that game. He had 12 catches, a gazillion yards, a couple touchdowns to go along with it. So,
for sure.
Look, if I had to pick, of course, I'm biased when it comes to that as well, right? So I think for me and him, it was just like, hey, look, I got to go with the little bias and give it to him. But look, hey, look, Michael Brown deserves it, especially what he's been doing over the last few games.
And an honorable mention to Ryan Davis, too. Ryan Davis was actually my first pick, but then I had to switch it because, Ryan Davis had fantastic stats, Queen City receiver. For those that don't know, he caught 3 of the touchdown passes from Brown in that game. But then Brown had 2 other receivers that also caught some touchdowns, and one of them had over 100 yards. Another one was close to 100 yards. Michael Brown's just playing lights out. Had to highlight him again. Your defensive player spotlight is...
All right, so I have to go with Atlanta Swarm linebacker, Grandpa himself, Aquana Shine. So as you're going to see his stats pop up. His stats really don't kind of jump out. He has 4 tackles, 2 TFLs, 1 interception. As you know, see here, pick 6. Next one, he had 1 fumble recovery, scooping a score, and you're going to see that here in a little bit, right? Veteran play right off the rip. What's he do? He reacts, he avoids the block, makes the tackle, and it's a textbook tackle to the T. The next one you're going to see coming up, more of the same, right? You won't find a better tackler than Grandpa. What's he do? He's got those big hugs, like hugging the grandkids.
Big old Grandpa
knows
hug.
To grab him, bring him down, and everything else. And look, and you can see
doing that wrestling,
right? And you can actually see on the very next one right here, he can also rush the passer with the best of them.
Yep.
Beats 2 blocks, 1 from the running back and 1 from the tackle. Gets right in there as the guy knocks it out. He's there to scoop and score as his teammate strips the ball away and take it right in. Right, and you're gonna see, here coming up, he also plays as an edge rusher as well. He has great speed for a guy who is so old. He keeps himself in shape. I don't know how he do it. He gets out the walker, goes on the field, does his thing. Right, comes around the side. You're gonna see, tackles the ball carrier right around the edge, and he gets it before the running back gets to the second level defender.
Yep.
Look, and it just shows, that you can steal this old dog. Still's got some ups on this very next play. What's he do? He's going to slow it down right here. Ron Haynes going to slow it down. What's he do? He nearly gets a pick. And you're going to see, he says, I'm not going to miss it. He knows he missed that opportunity. He says, I'm not going to miss the next one. Very next one we got coming up here. Grandpa, again, drops back in coverage, reads the quarterback size, doesn't miss his opportunity.
Yep.
Gets the INT, takes it in for the score. Grandpa Shine leads his team in tackles with 60, has 14 TFLs, 6 pass defenses, and 2 touchdowns, which is 2 more touchdowns than Eddie Gage will ever see in his entire career. He ain't going to see no more because he's sitting on the sidelines with a team that's 3-4.
Oof,
I love you, Eddie.
dude.
But
do you?
Aquana Shine is a Hall of Famer,
yes,
6-time All-Star, and is #1 all-time in tackles. He's done it for a very long time. Grandpa still has it after 18 seasons played in the SFL. He retired briefly for a couple of seasons.
Got bored.
Decided to get in the walker,
get
on his hover round,
yeah,
do his thing, and people made fun of him. You deserve to be back on the field.
Sure
so
does.
he just drives the hover round to the field, gets out, play like nobody's business.
Yeah.
And congratulations to Grandpa. Defensive player spotlight.
There you go. Congratulations to both Michael Brown and Aquana Shine. Do you think Eddie Gage is ever going to get himself that hover round and come out of retirement?
I don't know if he deserves one.
Is he going to get like a
You're just going to roll them.
one of the jazzies?
You just roll them down the field. We can drag them around.
Just dump them. There you go. Go do something.
The pick sixless one.
Yeah. Anyway, all right. The streets are talking. They do their community vote. Brett Solberg runs that one, and we have the results in from this past week's voting. The Offensive Player of the Week, as voted in by the community, it was also Michael Brown. They agreed with my assessment, even though you didn't until I guess I convinced you. Ziggy Roenick was number 2. And Shane Kaufman and Ryan Davis actually tied for number 3. Michael Brown had 39.7% of the vote. Roenick with 30.9%, so that was pretty close.
Yep.
And then Shane Kaufman and Ryan Davis both tied with 8.8%. For the Defensive Player of the Week, as voted in by the community, overwhelmingly,
yes,
Grandpappy Shine. They did 55.9%. That is just such a huge margin of victory there. Your guy, Chuck Diesel, got an honorable mention at 17.6% in the number 2 spot. And then at number 3, another wily old vet, Kanye Rockefeller, with 13.2% of the vote. So congratulations to all the winners and the honorable mentions. Some lights out football these guys are playing. Love to see it.
Look, and the community agreed, right? I think
finally.
A couple of times this season we all got it right together, even though we're always right. That's all that matters. But look, they got it right this time. Gave everybody they do. It's all good.
Sorry, you weren't supposed to see that.
No, it's cool. I'm down with it.
All right, listen, we're not calling a game this week. We were left off the schedule. I don't know who writes that thing, but somehow we got shunned, and we get to do our show, and then we just get sent out to pasture, I guess. But so instead of talking,
we're gonna go visit the horse.
Oh yeah.
It's horse visiting day.
I don't want to see a 2-legged horse. That's weird. Yeah, it'd be freaky. I'd run away.
It's a majestic thing.
It's green. I don't know.
One
So
of a
instead of
kind.
talking about the game that we've got coming up next, because we don't have one, we're going to talk about a second pick for our game of the week, and we already mentioned it, Atlanta at Denver. Should be a really great one. It's another game with early playoff implications on the line. Atlanta is currently 3rd in the East, but I use my air quotes because the East is still winnable for any of the top 3 teams. They all have 4 losses each. So, just different number of wins and who's got tiebreakers over whom, but they all lost 4 games, and those are the number 1, 2, and 3 teams. Usually you don't see the number 1 team with 4 losses in Week 11. But that's what we have. Number 1, 2, and 3, all with 4 losses. Atlanta lost to number 2 in the East, Florida, way back in Week 1. And they have a critical game against Carolina coming up in that fabled Week 12 next week. If Atlanta can win this one and then beat Carolina, they may just find themselves in first place after that Week 12 game. I told you early on Week 12 mattered. Anywho, then their final 2 games are against winless teams. Atlanta literally has the easiest remaining strength of schedule of any team, 25th in difficulty in the league. There's only 25 teams. So they've got 2 winless teams, and then they've got Carolina coming up. Carolina's obviously the tougher of the opponents in that group, and they've got Denver, where they're facing on the road this weekend. So Denver, they currently lead the Central. So, hey, they're in number 1. But like Washington, it's not a very solid lead. They're tied with Minnesota in record, but they only hold the tiebreaker over them after beating them last week in Minnesota, no less. Great win. I mean, don't get me wrong. That was a great win, but that's the only reason they have the number 1 spot. Otherwise, the record is the same. That lead might not last long. Minnesota does not have a history of losing many games, and they've already lost 3. I think they've pretty much met their quota for losses, and they're probably done. So, and they still have 4 left to play themselves. Like we talked about, this schedule is just, or the standings, I should say, they're just still gonna get all topsy-turvy, flip around. Even Indianapolis at 3 and 5 is still technically in the running to win the Central. That it could be done statistically. I don't think it's going to be.
It's not,
but it could be.
It's not.
I'm just saying that statistically they still have a chance. So Denver needs to stay on their toes. Is my point. Another easy strength of schedule the rest of the way through. They're 3rd from the bottom. It was 23rd out of 25. They've got Charleston, Houston, and Oklahoma City the rest of the way. Obviously, Houston's not a pushover. They're at 5 and 3, and Charleston's at 2 and 7. Oklahoma City obviously at 0 and 7. Oklahoma City could be a trap game, though. Charleston, I think they're better than a 2-7 record.
I agree.
So who knows what could end up happening? They've got to stay on their toes. They've got to try to keep winning games, I should say. And it starts tonight. One of these teams is going to win. One of them is going to lose. How's it going to happen? We'll see. Atlanta, what do you think?
And Atlanta, look, the bugs aren't dead yet, despite the attempts to get them exterminated earlier this season. And they have won 2 straight games.
Yeah.
Their offense has not been very good, especially lately in the passing game, where quarterback Bryant Dynasty has thrown 5 interceptions and 2 touchdowns only over the last 2 games. Look, they have averaged – the good part is they have averaged 105 rushing yards on the ground.
Yep.
You know, with BDG Hollywood and you know, Hubba Kimbrough doing, you know, what they need to do, kind of sharing a little bit of the carries. But the key to their success has been their turnovers that they have forced the last 2 games. They forced 8 turnovers and turned them directly into points with of those 8, 4 of those turnovers went directly to touchdowns scored by the defense, along with having 4 sacks. The defense has outscored their own offense the last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
In touchdowns and what they're doing, right? They're scoring more touchdowns on the offense. That's not very good. So look, and it's, as we know, things like that is just not a recipe for sustained success.
Right.
They will need to get their offense back on track. We know they can do it, right? They have the talent there. They have Fox Highwind, right? And they have, you know, Siege Falco, Bryant Dynasty. They have, you know, Hall of Famer BDG Hollywood and all these other guys on there, too, that can do all these things. But they need to get their offense back on their track if they want to avoid the raid bug spray that's going to exterminate them and knock them right out of the playoffs.
Sure will. I mean, we talked about it when we mentioned Fort Worth, same sort of boat. You know, if their defense is scoring points, they're winning games. If their defense isn't scoring points, they're losing. Atlanta's got to make sure their offense is actually doing the scoring, and the defense just simply can stop the opponents, and the offense is doing enough on their own to score. How about Denver and what they're doing offensively and defensively?
I think the big change for them and the thing that's been successful for them has been their head coach, Michael Goodman, and his coaching staff. We've seen it already. They went into Minnesota last week and knocked them off. Look, and the defensive coordinator, Jimmy Hadsey, if I'm saying that right, if I'm not pronouncing it right, please don't correct me. That's just
send them DMs.
Hadsey's. Look, they are the reason why this team is 5-3 and upset Minnesota last week.
Yeah.
They putting together everything they need to do, and they have a winning record now, more than what they had, like, I don't know, 5, 6, 7, 8 seasons for a while.
What'd you say? They were like a homeless guy dumpster diving last season looking for a meal?
They took a dumpster diving team, and
I wish you would share your feelings, with everyone and not just, keep them all inside.
No, dude, I'm saying I called them a dumpster diving team.
We know.
So, and they turned them into a team that is looking like a contender through their first 8 games this season.
For sure.
Look, they went out, and you know what they did? This is the smartest thing they do. They went dumpster diving in a dumpster. But what they really needed to do is find themselves, travel a little bit down south, right, to find themselves some talent. Yeah. And you guessed it.
Where could you find
Go Revs, baby.
Yeah.
They bring in Dwayne Sammons, who's number 9 in rushing, right? Linebacker, the general, Chuck Diesel, right? Number 5 in TFLs in the league.
See the guy that sells the insurance on the TV?
And
that general, different general. Sorry.
And what do? Hall of Fame stuff for many seasons. Whoever's doing this damn voting need to vote this man in come this summer.
Tank Bennett.
Hall of Fame snub, Tank Bennett, strong safety.
I knew it.
All of which had huge parts of success on this squad this season. And let's not forget quarterback Trellis Blount, who is having a really, really good season. And I would even argue to say a career season, throwing the fewest interceptions in the SFL this season as a quarterback. The offense also boasts the number 3 rushing attack behind Sammons and Bailey O'Shaughnessy, who seems like he was really, really good. The bell cow back. If you bring in Sammons, they coming together, and they have the number 3 rushing attack. And the defense is top 6 in nearly every defensive category, led by the general Chuck Diesel and linebacker John Martin, who leads the team in tackles. Right now, I do think they're like world beater type mentality right now, and they are gaining more and more confidence and momentum, and a team playing with momentum and confidence can be a very, very dangerous team.
Yeah, absolutely. And, not for nothing, they're at home this weekend. They're hosting the Swarm. Same thing. That was for you. That was for you.
I love it.
But, yeah, listen, it's going to be a fantastic game either way. I mean, can Atlanta's defense keep on putting up points? Can their offense instead put up some points of their own? And how is Denver going to respond to that? It's going to be a great one. So, yeah, these two games that we highlighted here tonight, man, just absolutely fantastic show. It was a fantastic show, but it is going to be fantastic games. I don't know what I'm even saying anymore. Anyway, let's get into the picks. Here's something I know. I'm beating you still. Not only am I beating you still, I extended my lead. Now, granted, we talked about this last week, too. It blows my mind. We have picked, I don't know, let's do some quick math. It's been over 90 games. It's closer to 100 games already, right? Or 100 teams, I should say. And it's still only off by 2. Like, I can't believe how close it is. I'm 58-36. You're 56-38. Just surprising how close it is after this far into the season. I went 6-3 last week. You went 5-4. So not our best week, not our worst. We've had worse. But let's see what we can stir up this week with these picks. And since we're not calling a game, thanks, schedule guy. He is. He's arrogant and he likes to talk about his team a lot.
I know. Where's this bling arena in my face? It's always
What
blinding me.
Oh yeah. That's
jerk.
Oh. Yeah, we get to pick all the games this week. DC, Houston. Who do you got?
All right. So for my 95th pick this season, because it was 94, the math is mathing.
Nice.
94 total picks. My 95th pick. It's going to be a no-brainer for me. It's Houston. DeMond Simeon. Love what they're doing. Blake B. Craze. I love you, boy. Keep doing good stuff. Go Houston. Houston wins it.
Okay. Not for the same reasons, but Houston, I do think, will get the win in this one. DC's just been playing some weird football. We haven't really broken down their team a whole lot this season, but if we were to, man, you talk about bipolar teams, maybe even less than bipolar. Like they started off really strong, and then they've just fallen off. And now they're on the road in Houston. Houston's a tough team. They're still vying for the top of the South. Houston, I think, gets that win. And I don't think it's going to be close. Indianapolis at Vancouver.
Look, and if I had in this game right here, it's not that it was hard for me to pick, but I feel like just this one right here, Vancouver, the way they playing and the way Indianapolis is playing, that this could be a trap game.
It could. It definitely could.
Here for them, right? Nobody, Indianapolis just comes out of nowhere and decides to want to beat a team and show up.
They still got a shot in their division, man.
And they do. And they got this Chad Roland Ghost hanging around. When he disappears, they do good. When he shows up, they do bad.
Yeah.
But, look, I do think Vancouver is just way too strong of a team right now. They're playing at home, right, up in Vancouver. Indianapolis, right, is just kind of sort of struggling, right? They're so hit and miss. When they're on, they can compete.
Yep.
But I do think Vancouver, even if Indianapolis competes, Vancouver is too strong a team to let any kind of thing slip away against this team. Vancouver wins it.
Vancouver is number 1 in points scored. Vancouver is number 1 in points allowed. That gives them a number 1 point differential. Indianapolis is not the team on the road that's going to overcome that. Vancouver, I think they get the win. Washington at Fort Worth.
And this is a game that was I won't say it's a pick'em game. On the service, everybody's like, hey, Washington 7-1, right?
Sure.
Doing their things. Fort Worth just lost, last
number
week.
Number 1 seed to number 15
right,
seed.
So, and they kind of drop right off and everything else. But you know what? Fort Worth's playing at home. I like the way they play in the stockyards. And it's just, Washington isn't going to do anything to put themselves there. I just think Fort Worth has been playing to the level of their opponents all season long. They rose to the occasion against you guys.
They did.
I do think they're going to rise to the occasion against the Trident, and I do think they're going to come away by winning by 3 points. They're finally going to put it together and realize, hey, but, Fort Worth is one of these teams, too. It seems like they just play better for some reason when their back's up against the wall and have something to prove.
Yeah.
Maybe they like having a little bit of a chip and people doubting them. I'm not doubting you this week, and I don't mean you get to lay lax. So I think Fort Worth wins it at home against Washington.
Yeah, I mean, I can't disagree with you on any of that stuff. Fort Worth, they are at home. They've got a lot to play for. We talked about it. They're last in the South. They've got a road to the first in the South. It starts with beating Washington. I don't think they do it, though. I've doubted Washington earlier on in this season. They proved me wrong. I can admit when I was wrong, I was wrong. Washington, I think, gets the win in this one tonight. Atlanta at Denver.
Now, this is one, it was kind of pretty close. We picked it as our second game of the week right here. And I have to say, if there's any team that knows how to beat this team, it's if you have that swamp blood going through your veins because you spent a lot of time down south. It's the players on Denver. I already talked about the three there. Tank Bennett, Sammons, and Chuck Diesel. What they know how to do, they know how to beat the bugs.
They know how to beat
and
the
they
bugs.
know the only good bug is a dead bug. And what's going to happen, they're going to show Denver how to do it, and they're going to welcome the bugs into this Mile High Stadium where they at, and guess what's going to happen? They're going to go there. They got their rage spray and everything else. You may see only good bug is a dead bug because, they had friends and family.
They do.
When they were down south. You might see some shirts in the stands. Denver wins it. Why? Because the only good bug is a dead bug.
I think Atlanta's going to keep this one close. I really do. I think that they're a good competitive team, and I think there's actually a good chance they could still win the East. But again, I don't think it starts this weekend. I think Denver, I just really like how they're playing football so far this season. And they've got a lot of talent, like you mentioned. They've got a lot of firepower. They're at home. I think they get it done, and Denver will get the win. Arizona at Oklahoma City. This is one that I think we've just kind of glossed over these ones in the past. It could be a trap game. Arizona's not great, but Oklahoma City, they still have yet to prove anything. I'm picking Arizona.
I mean, the Scorpions are a bug, and, but I do think they're going to Oklahoma City and win.
Yeah.
Eddie Gates takes it.
Yeah, Arizona is the pick for both of us. And listen, Christian Bachagalupi got all mad at me in the chat. He might be doing it right now, too. We can't interact with the chat today, which I hate, but we will be back interacting with the chat on our next show, promise you. So he might be yelling at me right now. But listen, like I said, please prove me wrong. I don't want Arizona to necessarily lose, but I'd love to see Oklahoma City win. I just don't think it happens. Bossier City at Minnesota.
This is one that I went back and forth. Minnesota lost at home last week.
They did.
Bossier City did something good last week, and they win. And I'm thinking, hey, this one they give me a hope that we have a legitimate Louisiana team back again until these guys were there last season. Guess what happened? They do stuff like this, and when I pick them, they do something different. And you know what? I'm picking you again this week. Why? Because I have confidence in you.
Do you?
But if you let me down, you know what? We're going to bury you in the swamp. I am. And then
I was gonna say,
I'm going to let
got
it
a mouse
simmer.
in your pocket? Who's this we you
I'm
speak
gonna let
of?
her simmer for the Louisiana folk. We need everybody in the state. They're representing the state here.
That's true. That's true.
If they don't pull this off, they dead to me, and we're going to bury them. We're going to let them marinate a little bit in the mud. We're going to pull them out. We're going to grind down their bones and get rid of you. Nobody know where you at. So don't disappoint us.
Not sure if we have a workplace violence policy here in the SFL.
Go
but if
Bossier
we
City.
do, I'm sure you violated it.
Johnny Pickett, I love you. Go Bossier City.
Okay. Not quite sure how to follow up on that one. Listen, Minnesota just lost at home. They don't do that twice in a row. You're nuts. They don't do that twice in a row. Minnesota is going to get the win. I think this is also going to be a close game, but I think Minnesota gets things fixed. I told you earlier on, they've already lost 3 games. They hit their quota. I don't think they're going to lose again till the playoffs.
I want a Louisiana team to win.
Sorry, what you want and what might happen is 2 different things. Minnesota's going to get the win. Nashville at Baltimore. Winless Nashville, number 3 Baltimore.
I just got to go with Baltimore. I just don't think Nashville's figured it out yet. They're trying. We know they're trying. They're not bad, right? They just had a little bit of bad luck. They're missing a few little key pieces, but I don't think they have enough to go into Baltimore and win.
I agree. Yeah, I got to pick Baltimore as well. Mexico City at Lexington. We've got 2 teams with winning records, both with a lot on the line.
Yeah, one of my favorite players ever plays in Lexington, the boogeyman himself, Tony Roberto, and he's going to maybe wreak some havoc and get the boogeyman stuff happening against Mexico City, but I don't think they have. It can't be only him. Mexico City's too strong on offense, and I think they're going to win it. Mexico City.
I always will pick the Aztecs unless I'm selling the team and they're not for sale, but I will at least say, listen, Tony Roberto is one of my favorite players in the league. And not this week, man. I've been watching film. I've been preparing for this game. And every single time I'm trying to do some game prep, there's Tony Roberto just reminding me that this ain't going to be an easy game.
The boogeyman is always watching.
He's in my nightmares. He's literally the boogeyman.
I love it.
But I do think the Aztecs will get the win. So that's our picks for this week. And that's all the time that we have in our show tonight. Appreciate you all joining us this afternoon, I should say. It's still used to it being night. Sunday afternoon. What are we even doing here on the air? But Well, we're done. You don't have to hear us the whole rest of the weekend. You get to enjoy the rest of your weekend. Mike and Gerald free. We've got Nashville at Baltimore coming up next, immediately followed by Indianapolis at Vancouver. Couple of great games, and then a whole bunch more later on this evening, and a couple of great games on Monday. I'm Mike. That's Gerald. That's our show. Thanks for joining us, and these games are coming to you next right here on the Virtual Football Network. Don't go anywhere.